many people don't think we'll get a result on November 4th. Can you speak to that, Barry?
Well, I still remember the 2000 election as if it was yesterday. And, you know, there's some similarities in as much as we'd had, you know, the tech bubble had already burst. We've obviously had a fantastic run in tech stocks. But we were at the end of a very long business cycle, not at the beginning of what is a new business cycle this go around. When you think about, though, how the market is potentially positioned for that, I think the market is fairly on sides in the sense that, first of all, you have a very steep VIX futures curve, right? So, you know, the premium that you pay for October, November futures or options is pretty high. It's very high relative to actual realized volatility. And the premium that you pay for out-of-the-money puts is quite high as well. Furthermore, if you think about sector performance, the three sectors that you would expect to be most impacted by a blue wave outcome, the financial sector, healthcare sector, and energy sector, are the laggards. So it's not as if the market is not positioned for this. The market is in probably a decent spot. So my expectation would be, yeah, if you get that contested outcome, we're going to have a rough spot in the market for, you know, a period of weeks. The market will probably stabilize before year end. The real issue is 2021, because if we have that blue wave scenario, taxes are going up. I think the first major move in 2021 will be down. So I'd be a lot more bearish on the 2021 outlook in the blue wave scenario than, you know, worried about how the market will react to it in the near term.
Barry, I'm fascinated by how consensus comes together, and it's up for our viewers, our audience, to determine whether they go with the consensus or push back against it. Are you saying if there's a blue wave, we get a down move? OK. Is it a down move you would buy? And I imagine it would be a down move many people buy because, yes, higher taxes, but also higher spending. Barry, is it a down move you would buy?
No. I view spending and taxes completely differently. I mean, you could go back to the European sovereign debt crisis and think about how Spain, Italy, France all tried to resolve their debt problem, right? So these austerity programs were mostly tax hikes. And because of automatic stabilizers, they became virtual 100% tax hikes. That IMF told them that spending multipliers would be 0.5 or 0.6, meaning that's how much consumption would fall for a dollar increase in tax hikes. It was more like 1.5 in the case of Italy, and that's an under-levered, you know, population. So, no, I think a blue wave scenario is not a buyable outcome. I think it's, you know, you probably wait for a little rebound and then you reduce risk, because that blue wave scenario does mean a rough start to 2021.
Barry, just quickly, with the time we do have, walk me through how you would position going into year-end. You've talked about the VIX curve already pricing the volatility beyond November into the turn of the year. The vaccine is on the horizon as well. The Pfizer CEO talking that up too. The prospect of a second wave of the infections that we experienced through March. Let's all hope we don't experience anything like that again. Barry, what is the positioning story for you going into year-end?
Yeah, I've for most of the year from the lows, I've been long the technology sector and the cyclicals with the idea that the economy was far more dynamic and resilient than most expected. That's certainly been borne out. An unemployment rate at 8.4 when the Fed thought we would end the year at 9.9 is some evidence of that. I downgraded tech for the first time in about 11 years back on August 22nd, but from an overweight to a market weight. I think I would stay there with technology, but I would still be long those cyclical sectors, industrials, financials, materials. I think the economy is proving far more resilient and dynamic, and even some of the recalcitrant, you know, coastal states are starting to get dragged into reopening their economies. So I think the economic outlook and economic momentum is still pretty good, and I'd stick with cyclicals. We'll see what happens with the election and how I want to think about 2021. Yeah. That's a, you know, little bit more of an intermediate problem relative to how I would be positioned for the balance of the year.